Hey guys, Matt Henderson here. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a comparison of all of Thinkway's original Buzz Lightyears. So Thinkway, back in Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story and Beyond, the original Buzz Lightyear was the most basic Buzz Lightyear that you could buy from Thinkway. And over the years, they made a lot of changes to it. In this video, I'm going to be comparing them all to each other and also giving a little bit of my opinion on them too. And so, yeah, let's get started. So this right here is the first edition of the original Buzz Lightyear. This was from 1995, and it's pretty unique compared to the other ones. I've already made a review of this Buzz, so I'm just going to assume all of you guys know the basics of this figure. But the main differences between the other versions that we'll see later is his buttons are a very dark red compared to the later Buzz Lightyears. His head is I actually like the colors on his head. He has very dark brown eyebrows, and his skin tone is very bright. And then if you look at the back, this part here, I don't know what you call this, but this little part here is just white, so it's not colored in at all. And then his articulation is the same as the other ones, except for one thing. His legs are a little bit different. So if you look at his legs, his knees do not lock into place, nor do his ankles. All of the later versions actually do snap into place. So this type of articulation is exclusive to this Buzz. And then his legs also don't really push in very far, which is a little bit improved on the later Buzz Lightyears. So in my opinion, the articulation is probably the worst on this version here, but it's overall pretty much the same Buzz that you could find later on. I'll also go ahead and show you what his voice box sounds like. Now mine here is a little bit quiet. I'm not sure if they're all like that, but on mine it's very quiet. So I'll go ahead and just play what his voice box sounds like. So here's the laser. And here are some of his phrases.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace. Buzz Lightyear to the rescue.
By the way, all of these Buzz Lightyears have all the same phrases, although their voice boxes will differ in pitch slightly from each one, which I will point out. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about this version of Buzz. I will go ahead and show you what the boxes look like. Now for this Buzz, I actually do have his box, which I'm very thankful to have. So this version of the box is it has a yellow stripe. Otherwise, it is the same as the other Toy Story 1 version of this Buzz, which I will show next. But as you can see, the box features this cloud design, and it's a pretty nice box actually. It has renders of Buzz on the box. We have the back of the box, which has the action figure on it. All this stuff down here. If you want a more in-depth look at this box, remember, watch that review. So yeah, there were other versions of this box, of the yellow stripe box, that had slightly different size stripes, and then there were also some that actually had stickers of the yellow stripe. So I'll go ahead and show those on the screen. Alright, so now let's move on to the next Buzz. So, go ahead and take this box away. So, this is the second version of the Toy Story 1 Buzz. So this one was actually released in 1995, and this one lasted quite a bit longer than the version that we just looked at. This one lasted all the way up until 1999 when this Buzz was replaced with the third version. And this Buzz is probably the most iconic version of the original Buzz. Unfortunately, mine's in kind of rough condition, so I apologize for that. But this version made a lot of improvements. The red color is much brighter on his red buttons. His head color, though, I don't like as much. I'll go ahead and compare it to the first one. It's a little hard to see on camera, but you can tell this one is a lot brighter. His face color, and then his eyebrows are much darker on the one on the right. The left one, they're a little bit lighter, but it's overall somewhat similar to the last one. And then if we look at the back, whoops. If we look at the back, this thing is actually colored in a little bit. It's like a really, really light seafoam green. So it has a little bit of color, but it's not really that colored. That'll be a difference that will be shown off later on. He has a little bit of trouble standing. But yeah, speaking of standing, actually, he actually has improved articulation. So his knees actually lock into place now. And so do his ankles. Although on this one, they're not very tight, but they do have notches where they lock into place. Then his legs can go together a little bit better, which helps him stand up a little bit better. So overall, this version is definitely better than the Toy Story 1 version. Alright, so I'll go ahead and show you what his voice box sounds like also. His voice box sounds a lot better than the first one, but it's still pretty similar sounding. So I'll go ahead and show that off. It's much louder for one thing.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace. Buzz Lightyear to the rescue. To infinity and beyond.
So overall, this version is quite an improvement. I'll go ahead and show you what some of the boxes look like. This version has a different box from the very first version. These boxes actually feature a blue emblem on the box instead of the yellow stripe. This box I actually think looks a lot nicer. It fits with the box style a lot better. And this Buzz is very common, so this is probably the most common one of the bunch. So yeah, that's what the box looks like. Alright, now moving on to the next version. This is the Toy Story 2 version, also known as the 1999 Buzz. And this is where we start to see a lot of major improvements once again. So for one thing, this version has pretty different colors from the last one. His green color is a tad darker, and his purple is also a tad darker as well. And I think his gray color is also a little darker. So the colors are a little bit different. And then we also see some major sculpt changes as well. He has a much larger head than the last one. The first two versions have what I call the medium-sized head. It's a little hard to show this, but you can tell the one on the left, his head does not quite reach the top of his helmet. The one on the right, it goes to the very top of his helmet. So the heads are quite different in terms of the sizing. And then this version also has screws in the neck piece. What this means is that there's screws right here. Now these screws were not first introduced in this Buzz. They were originally introduced in the intergalactic Buzz Lightyear, but they carried over to all future Thinkway models. So this one does have the screws. The first two versions do not have screws. So that's a pretty major difference. Then another difference is that the hands are a little bit different. So you can tell on the original two versions, there's the pin in the hand was very small. On the Toy Story 2 version, it was actually quite bigger. It was quite a bit bigger. So you could see how much bigger this pin is compared to the first two versions. So yeah. And then if we look on the back of the two figures, we can see that the color of this thing has changed once again. This one was much lighter. This one is actually a little bit darker now. So the colors have changed once again. So that's pretty interesting. And then another difference on the back, if we look at Buzz's butt, this Toy Story 2 version actually says Disney Pixar Thinkway. The Toy Story 1 versions just say Disney Thinkway. So all Buzzes from this point on have the changes from this one, or at least most of them. We'll get to that later. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and show you his voice box. This one has the loudest voice box, and is a little bit lower pitched than the first two. So I'll go ahead and show you what it sounds like.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace. Buzz Lightyear to the rescue. To infinity and beyond.
So yeah, there were a lot of changes made to this figure. Most of them were just kind of quality of life improvements. But overall, this one is not really a crazy big upgrade to the previous version. I'm not a huge fan of the large head. This one is kind of the most nostalgic Buzz out of all of these ones because I had this exact type of Buzz as a kid. But I think overall, the version 2 Buzz was a lot better, I think, overall. But this one is still pretty much the same thing, and it is pretty great overall as well. So I like both versions, but it's kind of just up to your own personal opinion. Which one is better? Now I'll go ahead and show you all of the different box variations of this Buzz. Now if you notice in some of these pictures, you might notice that the Buzz, his head size actually varies quite a bit from photo to photo. There were actually two major versions of the Toy Story 2 Buzz. There was one that had the large head, which is what I just showed off. Then there's also one with a smaller head. It's actually smaller than the Toy Story 1 head, so there's basically three head sizes so far. The medium head is Toy Story 1, the large head is Toy Story 2, and the small head is also Toy Story 2, and that head is the one that will be used on the models that we are showing next. So yeah, I wanted to make that clear. So there are two versions of this Buzz, but the only difference is that the head size is different. So yeah. And as you can see, the boxes have the Toy Story 2 style box, which has the stars on it, and overall looks very cool. This might be one of my favorite boxes, actually. So yeah. Alright, so next up is the Toy Story and Beyond Buzz. So in 2001, this is the new Buzz Lightyear. So this one has a lot of other changes that are pretty interesting, actually. So if we compare it to the Toy Story 2 Buzz, this one, as I just said whenever I was talking about the boxes, this one has the small head, this one has the large head. And I think the head looks really good on this one. The skin tone is not as bright as, say, the Toy Story 1 Buzzes, but it's definitely an improvement over the Toy Story 2 one. And then the colors are also very different on both of these. The white is much brighter, or I guess the gray. They're all kind of gray, actually, but the white/gray color is a little bit brighter on this one. And then the green is also a lot brighter. This one has, I think, the nicest green color out of all of them. So yeah, this one also, I'm pretty sure this one glows in the dark the best. All of these do glow in the dark if you didn't know. And I'm pretty sure this one glows in the dark the best. So yeah. The only kind of other strange change that was made, from the front at least, is that this one has a really, really dark purple color. So if we look at the strap part, it almost looks blue. It's almost like a really dark blue. When you compare it to this one is still pretty dark as well. It pretty much looks blue as well. But the one on the right's even darker. It's actually kind of crazy. And the contrast with the brighter color, it just gives it kind of a neat color scheme. And also something to point out, the purple color on his head does not match the rest of his body. So the purple on his head is also like really bright purple. It's actually the brightest purple out of all of them. So the colors are just very bizarre on this Buzz. But I think that kind of makes it cool, actually. So yeah, I'll go ahead and show you the back now. So, not much of a color change. This part is a little bit more green than this one, but they're pretty close in color. So yeah. And then, there are no articulation differences except for one thing. So this Buzz has a really nice bit of articulation in that his head actually moves. So his head can rotate 360. Now, it's kind of strange. Not all of these can rotate for some reason. We don't really know why, but for some reason, on this Buzz specifically, some of them can rotate and some don't. So if you're going to look for this one specifically, Make sure that his head can rotate, because if you don't have the rotating head, in my opinion, that's kind of a big downside. Because I personally really like the head articulation, because it just kind of gives it a little bit more character. And plus, it's just nice to have an extra point of articulation. So yeah, overall, I'm a pretty big fan of this Buzz. I think this one has... The colors are a little strange, but I think for the most part, it is an improvement over all of the previous ones we just saw. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and show you his voice box. His voice box is not nearly as loud as the Toy Story 2 versions, and it's also slightly higher pitched again, but it's not as higher pitched as the Toy Story 1 buzzes. So yeah, I'll go ahead and show you his voice box, his laser and phrases.
I am Buzz Lightyear. I am Buzz Lightyear. I come in peace. Buzz Lightyear to the rescue.
So overall, his voice box sounds pretty good. I'd say it's one of the better ones. But really, it's not too different. They're all pretty much the same, like I said earlier. Now I'm going to showcase all of the different box variants. So this one was kind of interesting. So this Buzz, the Toy Story and Beyond Buzz, was actually only released in Disney stores and Disney parks. Now all of the previous ones were also available in Disney stores and Disney parks, but they were not exclusive. This one was actually exclusive. So there's actually one box, which is the one here. This is the Disney Store box. Has a really wild design. I'm quite a big fan of it, actually. And then there's also a Disney Parks design, which has sort of the Buzz Lightyear Star Command design. They're both pretty cool boxes. There's also another box variation that I wanted to show off. So this is actually a Buzz that has a Toy Story 2 box, but the figure inside is actually the Toy Story and Beyond Buzz. And you can tell because the head, the color around his head, the purple, is actually much brighter than the purple on his body. It also has the same exact green color and has the same brighter white. So the colors are a dead match for the Toy Story and Beyond version. And this one was actually a region variant. It was actually the multi-language variant. And apparently this one was released a little bit later on. So that's why it actually features the updated Toy Story and Beyond Buzz, even though it features the Toy Story 2 box. So I found that very interesting, and I thought it was kind of neat to talk about, really. So yeah. So those are all the box variants. Also, I forgot to mention that this Buzz was available from 2001 to the mid-2000s. This is going to be important because the next Buzz came quite a bit later. The reason is because Disney Store took over production of Disney Store's Buzz Lightyears and just Toy Story toys as a whole. Around 2003 to 2005, they took over. And so Thinkway's original Buzz Lightyears were kind of out of production for a while. And Disney Store's own Buzz Lightyears were in their place. Now, Disney Store is kind of its own rabbit hole. I'll talk about them in future videos a little bit more. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that this Buzz was out of production for a long time, or just all of the original Buzz Lightyears. They were out of production for about 4, maybe even 5 years. So that'll be very important for the next Buzz. So the final original Buzz Lightyear variant is the 2009 version. Now this one is very interesting. You could probably see why. So as you can see here, his colors are completely different and incredibly bright. That is because this version of Buzz was actually made for Toy Story 3. Well, technically it was made in 2009, which is part of the Toy Story 3 toy line. But anyway, this version was made with the updated colors of the Toy Story 3 Buzz Lightyears. And we don't really know much about this version, but we know that it was made in 2009, and it features that Disney Parks box that I showed whenever I talked about this guy. So he's quite mysterious, but he's actually very cool. So as you can see, his colors are incredibly bright. They are a significant upgrade over all of the Buzz Lightyears I just showed off. Although I will say I kind of prefer the green color on this one. But overall, his colors are a massive upgrade. You can tell just by looking at it, they're very nice. His white color is actually white instead of like a really light gray. The gray parts of his body are actually a light gray instead of a dark gray. His skin color is very bright. It's by far the brightest one out of all of these. And even his blue button is actually like a nice bright blue. It's actually a lot more film accurate. And then, I don't know, you can just kind of see the colors are just so much nicer. Although there is kind of one thing that I think was interesting. So with all of these Buzz Lightyears so far, the first 1995 Buzz, the second 1995 Buzz, Toy Story 3, Toy Story and Beyond, this part got progressively more green. On this one, it's actually a little bit lighter again, so this one's actually more of a green, like a nice seafoam green color. This one's actually a lot lighter again, so that's kind of interesting. And then you can also just see how different the purples are on this one from this angle. They're just so much brighter on the one on the right. It's so nice. All right, so this is going to be the first time there's any major electronic differences. So the voice box is pretty similar to the Toy Story and Beyond version. I'll go ahead and show you what he sounds like.
Buzz Lightyear to the rescue! To infinity and beyond!
So his voice sounds pretty similar. However, if you noticed, his laser light is much brighter. It's incredibly bright. And not only is the laser light brighter, there's also a slight programming difference in terms of how the laser works. So, if you look at all the other Buzzes, their lasers, whenever you push the button, you have to wait until the sound and the light stop before you can push it again. So you basically can't really spam the laser button that quickly. However, if you look at this one, you can actually spam the laser button, and you can basically ignore the limitation of having to wait till the sound and the light are over with. So watch this. So yeah, it's kind of neat. And then the last differences with this Buzz are the fact that the head does not actually rotate on this one, unfortunately. So probably the only thing that's kind of a downside compared to the other ones, well, at least this one, the head does not rotate, so that's very unfortunate. Maybe out there someone has one that does rotate. Like I said, we don't really know why, certain copies of this one don't rotate, but maybe some copies of this do rotate, but as far as we know, none of these rotate, but I could be wrong. So that's unfortunate, but it's not too bad. The other ones don't have rotating heads, so I guess it's not a huge deal. So there's that. And then the final difference is that this Buzz actually has a number on his foot. And we don't entirely know what the numbers mean, but they are some sort of date, and the final number is a 9, and we're pretty sure that that means 2009. So yeah, the number has something to do with the date when he was made, and also that number appears in his battery compartment too. So yeah, so none of the other ones have the numbers on their foot, and the number being on the foot was also something that the Toy Story 3 era Buzz Lightyears had. So overall, this Buzz was very interesting. It was kind of an in-between of the classic and modern Buzz Lightyears, and I think overall this one is definitely the best one. However, I unfortunately can't recommend it necessarily. This Buzz is unfortunately very rare, and even though it's really good, I can't really recommend it. Unless you find one for a good deal, then of course I'd recommend it. And the same kind of goes for the first version of Buzz. The first version is also quite rare too, although this one is not as rare. In the box it is very rare, but loose it's not too rare. And even then, because of it having the kind of bad leg pose ability, I don't think I could recommend this one too much either, although this one is not as hard to get. As for the other three, I could probably recommend any of them. This one being so common and so easy to get, it's definitely a great option. It looks great in the box. I really like the box design. This one is probably the best one in terms of cost. And then the Toy Story 2 one is pretty solid too, but like I said before, I have nostalgia for this one, so this one's kind of my favorite one, but I don't know. This one's a mixed bag, but this one's also a great option too. Something I didn't really mention is that the wing mechanisms, which I haven't really talked about the wings throughout this video because they're all pretty much the same, looks-wise, except for the 2009 version. The wings got more reliable as they went on. So the 1995 or the Toy Story 1 versions have the wing mechanisms break very frequently, but as they went on, they got more reliable. But so that is an incentive to get the newer ones. But I think overall, in terms of the one to buy, this one might actually be the overall winner. Because while it's not the most common version, I think that the Toy Story and Beyond version is the best one because it has really nice colors. It's pretty easy to get. It's not the most easy one to get, but it's pretty easy to get. Has the additional head rotation, and is just kind of a great option overall. So I think I would definitely recommend this one the most if you're not looking to break the bank or if you're not like a hardcore collector. But like I said, pretty much all of them are great though. So yeah, guys, that's about all I have to say about this comparison video. Let me know which one is your favorite, and let me know your thoughts on this video. This was a video that was kind of expensive to make. I had to buy several Buzz Lightyears that I kind of just had to use for just this one video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If I helped you out, then that's great. And even if I didn't help you out, I hope I informed all of you about what Buzz Lightyears are out there, because this is something that I love doing. And yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Bye.